whether it be daytime or nighttime or morning for those who are in Australia and New Zealand and all those other places. Thank you. We're just grateful to you. They've counted us worthy to be used as instruments in strength. Let this mark the beginning of yet another season of great grace and glory. In the most excellent name of the Lord Jesus Christ, and all people say,
Amen.
Amen.
well, it's a pity that our brother will not be here to experience everything. But the good news is that it will be recorded anyway, so we'll go ahead. So let me hear from those of us that have done our homework, at least started. What were some of the things that struck you? What were some of the things you found out concerning the kingdom and all that we're talking about pertaining to the blessing and the three major things you're supposed to look into? Let me see two, maximum three hands, and then I'll go ahead. Yep, so let me see. Hands. Or is it that the people just want us to take off? They're not interested in saying anything? I would really appreciate it if I can have, okay, Susie, Auntie Susie. Susie Hansen, or was it by mistake you unmuted yourself?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it was.
It is by mistake. I'm now opening my.
All right, somebody else? Yes. Sister Nike, Auntie Nike Obobi, go ahead.
Yes, shalom. So I've just started, and one of the things, for example, in Ephesians 1:3, where this whole thing started, blessed be, apparently, blessed be, it's only used for God. So that's where I am. I've just started, so that's what I like to share. Thank you.
Excellent. So
If I understood it correctly.
God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, who has blessed us with all spiritual blessings in heavenly places. Some versions will say every spiritual blessing, which is the Ephesians 1:3 that you're quoting. Very good. Yeah. Who is the second person? Quickly, and then we'll move on. All right. Should I take it that the others did not do their assignment? They haven't started even. Oh, wow. Zoom user, Elegam. Okay. System versus rather technical, so I should start. Okay. All right. Zoom user,
Yeah.
are you ready?
One,
Okay.
a comment. Yes, please. In Genesis 24:60, I saw that a family blessed their sister
Yes.
when she was going into marriage.
That's very good. Was the Lord using them to bless Rivka, and that's when they say she should be a mother of thousands and of millions, and let her seed possess the gates of those that hate them. Excellent. All right. Last one, if any, and then we'll go. Who's taking the last slot? It's about to go. Okay. Maybe today Hannah has not arrived yet. She is here. Hannah Mijoya, you haven't done anything yet?
I'm here. I missed So I only actually.
All right, no challenge. We'll just go ahead then. And did Derek do any himself? Derek, okay, I'll take it then. The others haven't done anything yet. Okay, the question had to do with the aspect of the vow and the blessing. Having been blessed, do you need any vow at all? And wasn't that a sign of not believing God? To say, of all that God gives me, I'll give him a tenth. I mean, I've given you everything. Why are you talking about the tenth? Are you now saying that the rest doesn't belong to me and the rest belongs to you? Or what exactly are you talking about? I think that was the thrust of the question. And then we said, okay, let's look at it from the point of view of covenant. And then the whole thing about God's covenant with the universe and what dwellers on earth are supposed to do and what is required as the minimum as against what is now like giving. All right, so that's where we said we will start from. So let me begin with the first scripture, which is Genesis. I'm going to, wait a minute, let's go to Psalm 50, verse 5. Psalm 50, verse 5. So then we're going to look at the issues of Abraham and all the others later. So Psalm 50, verse 5 is the scripture that sets out the principle, which would help us understand what we're talking about much better than, if we went roundabout. Because one of the things that I've been told is that sometimes when I'm teaching, if people are not very attentive and following as closely as possible, they might end up losing out. So today I don't want to lose you. All right, I believe everybody can see my screen. So the mighty one God, the Lord, has spoken to call the earth from the rising of the sun to its going down. Out of Zion, the perfection of beauty, God will shine forth. Our God shall come and shall not keep silent. A fire shall devour before him, shall be very tempestuous all around him. I believe everybody can see clearly, that the mighty one God, the Lord, has spoken and called the earth from the rising of the sun to its going down, so from east to west. And then out of Zion, the seat of government, the perfection of beauty, God will shine forth. Our God shall come and shall not keep silent. A fire shall devour before him, shall be very tempestuous all around him. He shall call to the heavens from above and to the earth, and that he may judge his people. Then he says in verse 5, which is the verse I said we'll come into, gather my saints together. Some versions will say my consecrated ones. Others will say my sanctified ones. It's like those that have consecrated themselves to the Lord. Gather them together to me. Those who have made a covenant with me by sacrifice. So in essence, what God is saying, because let the heavens declare his righteousness, for God himself is judge. What God is saying here is that the principle of consecration is that which leads to making a covenant with God. And then the covenant is made by sacrifice. So that principle should be at the back of our minds, because then that will help us to be able to speak and understand what it is that is being said. So that's it. Let's go. When it came to Adam, Adam actually knew everything belonged to the Lord. So he ate only that which he needed, and then he was being fruitful, multiplying, replenish the earth, replenishing the earth, restocking, refilling, and all of that. But as a steward of the Lord's estate, of the Lord's abundance, of the Lord's endowment, of the Lord's deposits, of the Lord's riches, wealth, everything you could speak about. So that was Adam. Then came to the time of Noah. And in Genesis chapter 8, he said, why didn't you go to the issue of Enoch? Enoch walked with God, and he was not, because the Lord took him. All right? And that was because fellowship was the most important thing for him. And covenant partnership actually breeds fellowship, breeds oneness, breeds the ability to walk with each other. All right? But let me go to the issue of Noah. We know in chapter 6 that God was actually disappointed with man, and then he saw that the inclination of his heart was evil continually, maybe from verse 3, and then now he decided to bring the flood waters on the earth, and we see that in chapter 7. And chapter 8, finally, the time has come for, Noah to come out of the ark. And he comes out of the ark. We know what he said. I was just going straight, God remembered Noah and every living thing, and he made a wind pass over, and then it came to pass at the end of 40 days that Noah opened the window of the ark, which he had made. That's verse 6. And then you go to verse 13, and it came to pass in the 601st year, in the month of, in the first month, the first day of the month, that the waters were dried up from the earth. And Noah removed the covering of the ark and looked, and indeed the surface of the ground was dry. And the second month, on the 27th day of the month, the earth was dried. Then God spoke to Noah. Even though it was dry, he didn't come out. He waited for God to say, go out of the ark, you and your wife, and your sons wives with you. Bring out with you every living thing of all flesh that is with you, birds and cattle and every creeping thing that creeps on the earth, so that they may abound on the earth and be fruitful and multiply on the earth. So Noah went out, and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with him. Every animal, every creeping thing, every bird, and whatever creeps on the earth according to their families went out of the ark. But this is where we're interested, 20 to 22. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord and took of every clean animal, of every clean bird. Remember, it was pairs of 7 each, seven pairs, and offered burnt offerings on the altar. And the Lord smelled a soothing aroma. So God made sure he had enough to be able to offer and still have some left to multiply. That's why they were 7 pairs for each clean animal. All right? All right. Then the Lord smelled a soothing aroma. Then the Lord said in his heart, I will never again curse the ground for man's sake, although the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth. Nor will I again destroy every living thing as I have done. While the earth remains, this is the covenant he's making with the earth. Now, it came as a result of the altar built. It came as a result of the offering. So you're going to see Abraham doing the same in terms of, altar offerings and all of that, which is what, Isaac or Isaac also copied. And then now the issue of Yaakov. But the issue of vow, the first occurrence of vow is in the time of Yaakov. You see, these people didn't necessarily need to vow, but making a covenant, there are terms and responsibilities, and then there are also benefits of the covenant, rights. So rights, responsibilities, benefits, and also, sacrifices. Okay, for a covenant. So that is what happened. So now, because of Noah's sacrifice and offering, an altar, a place of covenant, the place of fellowship, the place of drawing power, etc., he now makes a covenant. While the earth remains, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, winter and summer, day and night shall not cease. Please, have they ceased? Anybody wants to help me? The reason why Derek is even in a time zone that is supposed to have been in Greenwich Meridian, but now they are 1 hour ahead of the universal time code, the same one that is for us GMT in Ghana. They are now rather 1 hour ahead. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So we have a challenge there because, people are having to adjust because of summer. Now, after spring, the watches have to spring forward. And then at fall, they have to fall back. That's one of the easiest ways for those people outside such temperate regions to remember. So with that said, let me go ahead. So winter and summer, cold and heat, seed time and harvest, not harvest time, because seed time is once, but harvest could be several from one seed time. Day and night have not ceased because of God's covenant with the earth, because of somebody's altar building, sacrifice, burnt offerings, all of that. All right? So God blessed Noah and his sons and said, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth or fill the earth. And then we know the story. Now, I'm going to go to chapter 12 so that we see the issue of Adam. All right, now. So Adam, now the Lord, Avram, excuse me. Now the Lord had said to Avram, get out of your country, from your family, and from your father's house, to a land that I'll show you. I'll make you a great nation. I'll bless you. I'll make your name great. It shall be a blessing. I'll bless those who bless you, and I'll curse him who curses you. You, all the families of the earth shall be blessed. He said they shall. But then you will need to go through the steps. So Avram departed as the Lord had spoken to him. And we know what happened. Now, I want you to see what happened in verse 6. Avram passed through the land to the place of Shechem, as far as the terebinth tree of Moreh, and the Canaanites were then in the land. And the Lord appeared to Avram and said, to your descendants I will give this land. And there he built an altar to the Lord who had appeared to him. So it looked like the response was to build a place of fellowship with God on the land as a witness to angels and to the rest of creation. I said that yesterday. And he moved from there to the mountain east of Beit El, the house of God, and pitched his tent with Beit El on the west and high on the east. There he built an altar to the Lord and called on the name of the Lord. So Avram journeyed going on still toward the south, or the Negev. Okay? So here, what do we see first of all? He built an altar to the Lord who had appeared to him. He moved from there to the mountain east of Beit El, and he pitched his tent with Beit El on the west and Ai on the east. There he built an altar to the Lord. So you see, altar building has commenced already. All right? Now, there was famine in the land, and Avram went down to Egypt to dwell there, for the famine was severe in the land. It came to pass when he was close to entering Egypt that he said to Sarai, his wife, indeed, I know that you are a woman of beautiful countenance. Therefore, it will happen when the Egyptians see you that they will say, this is his wife, and they'll kill me, but they will let you live. Please say you are my sister, that I may be well with me for your sake, that I may live because of you. Now, many of us think that God used only those who were perfect, and God doesn't hide anything. Everything is recorded. So it was when Abraham came into Egypt that the Egyptians saw the woman, that she was very beautiful. The princess of Pharaoh also saw her and commended her. Now, the word for commend here is the same Hebrew word halal, which means to praise, her to Pharaoh. And the woman was taken to Pharaoh's house. He treated Abraham well for her sake. Now listen to what happened. God used it as an excuse, for lack of a better word, to enrich Abraham. And he had sheep, oxen, male donkeys, male and female servants, female donkeys, and camels. But the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abraham's wife. And Pharaoh called Abraham and said, "What is this you've done to me? Why did you not tell me that she was your wife? Why did you say, she's my sister? I might have taken her as my wife. Now, therefore, here is your wife. Take her and go your way." So Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him. They sent him away with his wife and all that he had. Do you see that? And Abram went up from Egypt, he and his wife and all that he had, and Lot with him to the south again. Abram was very rich in livestock, in silver, and in gold. And he went on his journey from the south as far as Beit El, to the place where his tent had been at the beginning between Beit El and Hai, to the place of the altar which he had made there at first. Please, I hope somebody is following, because it is the whole thing about relationship with God, about fellowship with God, about, being seen to have identified with God, even with a physical, sign, either in terms of altar or in terms of offering, in terms of sacrifice. Gather unto me my consecrated ones. So this is a form of consecration, who have made a covenant with me by sacrifice. So Lot also, who went with Abraham, had flocks and herds and tents. You don't see him necessarily going to the altar. All right, is everybody with me?
Yes, sir.
I almost thought
Yes,
people
sir.
had left. Okay. All right, so now here we are. So Abraham said to Lot, "Please let there be no strife." And we all know what was happening. And, after all was said and done, they have left, each other. Verse 14, the Lord said to Abraham, after Lot had separated from him, "Lift your eyes now and look from the place where you are, northward, southward, eastward, westward. For all the land which you see, I give to you and your descendants forever." Why is the Lord speaking to Abram and not to Lot? Anybody wants to help me quickly? Uh-oh. What
Is it
happened?
because, oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
He had the covenant with Abraham.
He had a covenant with Abram, and Abram was in constant fellowship with him, relationship with him, a covenantal relationship. As with Adam, that was fellowship in the cool of the day. And we did say that it had to do with more about the spirit than just, the temperature. For those of you that were on when I taught on that. So he goes on and he says, "I'll give to your descendants forever, you and your descendants, and I'll make your descendants as the dust of the earth." And then he says, "Arise, walk in the land through its length and its width, for I give it to you." And Abraham moved his tent and went and dwelt by the terebinth trees of Mamre, which are in Hebron, and built an altar there to the Lord. How many times is Abraham building an altar? As many times as he needed to show that he belonged to the Lord. Anybody wants to tell me why he was doing that? Okay, let me go to the complete word study so that you see exactly why. Because he did it somewhere where there was a terebinth tree, right? Did anybody see that earlier on? Okay, let me go back to the New King James so you can see the terebinth tree of Mamre. Do you see that? Now the terebinth tree is actually Alon Mamre. And, you know, terebinth in general had to do with some sacred kinds of trees that were used for idolatry. And the man says, I don't worship idols. I worship the Most High God. Is everybody still with me?
So please, it means he was dedicating the land to the Lord.
Yes. Over and over.
Mm.
He actually, for lack of a better word, it's good that you are asking that question. You do remember that in the book, Establishing God's Altar Everywhere, I said when you establish an altar, you are giving God an official invitation. You are giving him a visa. You're giving him a residence permit as one that is officially, legally, the entity in charge of the earth. You now have invited him officially. Remember that?
Yes, sir.
So, great. It means you remember the things, and that's why you're asking. Very good question. All right. So then you see why he had so much power in the land. He could now deal with 4 kings that had defeated 5 kings. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I want to actually see if this one maybe is said that way. Okay. This one just says the plain along Mamre, you know, and terebinth, you know, should have been a different thing. So along the name refers to several different, let's see, you know, it's actually in the territory allotted to the tribe of Dan, was in the coastal area east of Joppa. What do you remember about Dan? Anybody? Oh, wow. Maybe I'm going too far.
Maybe I can say they were the last of the people that went and fought for the inheritance for themselves. And then in their way of going to find out from to search for the land, they saw a priest that was in somebody's house serving an idols, and they finally, after conquering the people, they went and took him, the priest and the idol, to their land.
So they actually gave themselves to idolatry.
Yes,
I
sir.
want to just help you. 1 Kings 13. It says, I'm behold, there came a man of God. This is that. He stood where? At Beit El. And, you know, they happened to have had an altar there where they were worshiping what kind of God? The calf, a golden calf. And this was in Beit El, and there was an altar in Dan in the north. So take your time, read, you will see all this. Don't let me take too much time here. I hope somebody is still following.
Yes, sir.
All right. So we're in Genesis 14 that I finished. and decided to just move on. Okay, so now you see Abrahamic covenant. After these things, the word of God came unto Abram in a vision, saying, Fear not, Abram, I'm thy shield and thy exceeding great reward. Do you see the way things are going? Because of the altars, covenant, okay. And Abram said, Lord God, what will you give me, seeing I go childless? We remember the story, right? And then verse 5, he brought him forth abroad and said, Look now toward the heaven, tell the stars if you'll be able to number them. And he said to him, So shall your seed be. Now the word foretell is actually, a different word, is sefer, and is actually like a numerate, which is like a census. So declare, count, number them, as in, can everybody see what I just was showing you? As in the highlighted portion, can you see it?
Yeah.
That's my stances.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
As in a census. As
Yeah.
in a census.
Yeah.
So he's saying, look, I want you to go take a census of the stars. If you are able to do that, then so shall your seed, singular, be, not seeds. So how do you take a census? You take it by, going on the street or the market, or you go to a households.
He says, so we go to the household.
So the stars, he had to actually enumerate them by households. What is the name of the households of the stars?
Constellation.
Somebody help me.
Constellation.
Constellations. So constellations. And what are some of the constellations? Anybody wants to tell me?
Mazzaroth. Orion.
Mazzaroth is the compilation of all the constellations.
Constellation, okay.
So which constellation? Give me some of the names of the various constellations, the households within the entire aggregation, conglomeration.
Okay. Orion.
Orion is one belt, but in terms of households.
Is it like about the 12 constellations?
Anyway,
The 12 constellations. So what are their names?
Virgo, this is
Virgo. Okay, hold on there. Hold on
Leo.
there. Was that Sister Mercy?
Yes, please.
Okay, what's the meaning of Virgo?
Virgin.
Virgin.
Okay, so what did that mean? Since it had to do with the seed of Abraham.
Oh,
The virgin birth.
He shall be born of a virgin.
Virgin.
And you also said, I heard Mercy saying Leo.
yes.
And that's the last of the constellations. So what did that mean?
The Lion of the tribe of Judah.
What does that mean?
Hallelujah.
I like your hallelujah. He shall come back as the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, the King of kings, and the Lord of lords. So he's coming first time as a baby born of a virgin, but after his death and resurrection, which you see with the scarabæus beetle, thank God for Jesus. All right. Now let me just, go on. So he says, because you're unable to hear what I say, you belong to your father, the devil, and you want to carry out your father's desires. I was a murderer from the beginning, now holding to the truth. And then he goes on to finish with that, and they say, what's going on to this with this guy? He says, the reason you do not hear is that you do not belong to God. Aren't we right in saying that you are a Samaritan demon possessed? I'm not demon possessed by a demon, but I honor my Father. You dishonor me. I'm not seeking glory for myself, but there is one who seeks it and is judged. Okay? And then he goes on to say the things that there. And now we know that you are demon possessed. Abraham died, and so did the prophets, and all that. Look at that. If I glorify myself, I was going to verse 58. You say you're not yet 50 years old. Let me do 56 or 55 first. Though you do not know him, I know him. If I said I did not, I will be a liar like you, but I know him and obey his word. He's talking about God. Then your father, Abraham, rejoiced at the thought of seeing my day. Do you see that? He saw it and was glad. Please, I believe everybody has seen it now, because when I was speaking earlier, it sounded like I was saying something that's not.
Yes, sir.
You are not yet 50 years old, they said to him, and you have seen Abraham. Very truly, I tell you, Jesus answered, before Abraham was born, I am. Chakatabayatos. At this, they picked up stones to stone him, but Jesus hid himself, sleeping away from the temple grounds. All right, I think I've said enough on that. Can I go back now to my Genesis?
Yes, sir.
Hopefully, Sister Grace has understood some things pertaining to the constellations, because that is not the teaching per se today. We're just saying that when God brought him out in verse 5 of this Genesis 15 and said, look up at the sky and enumerate the stars. And I showed you the word that was used, that is the word for enumerating the stars in the Hebrew, like in a census. And I showed that to you. All right? If indeed you can do it, then so shall your offspring, and I prefer the Old King James here, so shall your seed, thy seed, singular be. And I was now in Galatians chapter 3, so I can go ahead and finish the Galatians 3. So we have seen 6 to 8, right? So everybody still with me, eh?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
We're
please.
at verses 6 down to 8. So I'm jumping to 16. Now to Abraham and his seed, singular, where the promise is made. It says not unto seeds as of many, but as of one, unto thy seed, which is Christ. So the seed is who? The Lord Jesus,
Jesus
the Christ.
Christ.
The Christ.
Okay. Now, verse 29. And if you be Christ, then are you Abraham's seed, singular, and heirs, plural, according to the promise. So gather unto me my consecrated ones, my saints, some versions say, who have made a covenant with me by sacrifice. And the sacrifice of the Lord Jesus became the substitutionary vicarious sacrifice. That is, in our place. Is that clear so far?
Yes, please.
Okay, let me go back to my Genesis 15 then, now that you have seen that clearly. So just the aspect of stars was just for you to see that it was about Christ. There are books that have been written on that. I'll show you those books, at least 2, 3 of them, so you can do that on your own. Now, then we see the whole thing about man trying to help God, unfortunately, where you had the Hagar, and up to today, Ishmael and Isaac seem to still be fighting. But let me go on. They would easily have found themselves in Christ without any confusion, as we are one in Christ. All right? Now, in chapter 18, you see something that is there. that is so important that maybe I'll take us to, Numbers 18 later. But for now, this chapter 18 of Genesis, because he has taken responsibility for nations now. We saw it in chapter 14, then 15, and God tells him, look, this is what is going to happen. Through you and your seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. And then he shows him the redemption. He gives him the gospel of the kingdom in advance, with the King of the kingdom, the Lord Jesus Christ, being shown to him, like Jesus himself testified. All right? And we'll see Paul testifying in Galatians now. So, Abraham ended up now having to, seeing Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation. All the nations of the earth shall be blessing him. Say, I shall not hide anything from him, which I'm about to do. Do you see verse 17 and 18? You say, everybody's still with me, eh?
Yes,
Am I
sir.
being too fast for you? Grace.
Yes, sir.
Are you with me or I'm going too fast?
It seems a little fast, but I'll catch up.
All right. I'll try and slow down a bit, but it's because I want to get to the issue of the vow. But I just wanted you to see that the principle is the principle of the covenant. Gather to me my consecrated ones, those that have set themselves apart for me, who have made a covenant with me by sacrifice. So, for I know him that he'll command his children, and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of the Lord to do justice and judgment, that's righteousness and justice. And the Lord may bring upon Abraham that which has spoken of him. So righteousness and justice are the foundation of God's throne. And then he told him about going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. And Abraham ended up now negotiating. So the art of negotiation, you see it here, far be it from you to do after this man, to slay the righteous with the wicked. Do you see that? Say, shall not the judge of all the other do right? You see verse 25? Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I think it's clear now, isn't it?
Yes, sir. It's clearer.
Okay. So he starts with, if you find 50 righteous people, will you not spare? He said, for the sake of 50, I'll spare the place. Abraham, behold, now I've taken upon me to speak unto the Lord, which am but dust and ashes. Peradventure, you have a lack of 5, that's 45. He said, for 45, I'll not destroy it. How about 40? Then 30. And then, it goes on 20. Now it's going down by 10. And then he say, okay. What if there are 10? That's verse 32. And he says, I will not destroy it for 10's sake. This is again where I keep emphasizing, let's not allow our experiences to become our obstacles. Because Abraham knew about, the particular leadership of cities, the council being 10 people. So he was so sure at least those 10, he could have actually gone to 1 and God would still spare. True or false?
Surely.
I can see some people don't believe. Let me take you somewhere so you can see. Ezekiel 22 verse 30. What does it say? And I sought for 10 men. Just 1 man among them that should make up the hedge and stand in the gap before me for the land. I should not destroy it, but I found none. So if he had now said, peradventure there be one, would they have found one in Sodom?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, because the one that even started his prayer in the first place, because he didn't want him to be destroyed along with the people. And then he now said, wait a minute, don't let me just think of my nephew. Let me think of everybody. Even that one, we're told that he was grieved by the unrighteous acts that he saw there. True or false? Oh, come
True,
on.
sir.
True, sir.
Yes. All right. So
Yes, Lord.
Abraham here is now, having to intercede for Sodom and Gomorrah in chapter 18. And I'm just going to go ahead and finish that. So because only Lot had to now be removed from the city because of his righteousness with his family, then now we see the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. Unfortunately, his daughters, again, using their own reasoning as against asking the Lord what they should do, now ended up with incest. By the way, somebody asked that question. Let me quickly answer that question. Why were they always having to marry their own cousins or their own nephews or, stuff like that? Their own cousins, actually, or, not too distant relatives. And then in the case of Yaakov, he did something after the deception. What did he do? Somebody help me. Oh, wow. What did he do in terms of marriage?
He married two sisters.
He married two sisters. Thank you, Sister Nike. Now, is that allowed?
Normally, no. But these days, all kinds of funny things are happening.
Let me show you Leviticus 18:18. So that if you forget anything else, you don't forget that. What does it say?
Thank you, Dr. God. This means a lot.
Neither shall thou take a wife to her sister to vex her.
Let me use a more modern translation. You must not marry a woman in addition to her sister.
Yeah, but Hisavan, this was before the law. Jacob marrying.
Excellent. You are really thinking fast. Excellent. So, see, this was before the law. Jacob married the two sisters. So after the law, you're not supposed to marry two sisters, not to even talk of under grace, which will even be a higher level, because your righteousness must exceed that of the Pharisees and teachers of the law. So you must not marry a woman in addition to her sister to be a rival to her, having sexual relations with her, with the second sister when the first one is alive. If you must marry a sister, then it has to be when the other sister is dead. Is that clear?
Very clear.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Let me try and finish my Genesis so that we can get to the issue of the vow. All right. Genesis.
Shalom, sir.
Yes.
I just wanted to ask a question. The issue of
within questions. Okay.
the the issue of Jacob marrying the two sisters.
Yes.
I understand all that. That was before the law and all that. But
he did not even intend to marry the two sisters. wanted
That was
to
the
marry
point I
just
was
one.
trying. That was the point I was just trying
He
to.
just wanted to marry one.
He
See,
wanted one.
there are things that, for example, David married how many wives? And there is a statement that God was making, just trying to let him know you didn't need to go and kill somebody to take Bathsheba. And then people took it out of context. There is a man of God that said, oh, God is not against you marrying as many women as you want. Because God said, if you wanted more wives, I would have given you. That's what somebody now was saying. Are we together? So in terms of that, there was that aspect. But I don't want us to get into those ones. Let's move further and get all the other things that we're supposed to get. Is that all right? So he did not intend to marry two sisters. He intended to marry just one. Then he was deceived. And since his heart was on the one, and he could not throw away this one, he kept the two. But, you know, that was before the law, but that wasn't his intention. Excellent. Because his father didn't marry two sisters. He married one. He didn't marry even two wives. Do you notice that?
Yes, sir.
Abraham did not marry two wives.
Please, concerning the maid servants that the wives, the two sisters.
Very good question. That's why I was trying to avoid you asking questions with the questions so I can finish. But in terms of maid servants were supposed to be what? Possessions. They were given as gifts by the father. True or false?
True, sir.
So once it's my gift, whichever child you have is mine. So that's not seen as, you know, another marriage. Did you notice that, you know, okay, I'll give you Bilhah so you can have children for me by her. Okay. Or you didn't read that?
Yeah.
So I mean, in Syria, you know, one of these days I have to probably give you the assignment to go and read, and you see that actually that was supposed to be the culture of the day. If you're married for some time and you're not having children, you can actually use your maidservant to now have children, especially after 10 years. Okay. Maximum 10. Once you reach 10, now you're allowed by law to have children by your maidservant, because that's your own.
Shalom, sir.
Yes.
Shalom, sir.
Yes. Shalom, Esther.
Is that acceptable to God? Is that acceptable to God?
I just told you that there were things that happened and God overlooked because time of ignorance God has winked at. All right? So there are things that happen. Don't let us get too distracted with all of these other things. Do you still want me to continue with the issue of the vow or not?
Yes.
Because it appears these are the ones that now we're all talking about more.
Sorry.
Let's continue with the issue of the vow. So because, you know, of this whole thing about gather to me my consecrated ones that have made a covenant with me by sacrifice. The only reason why I allowed for the questions is because we're thinking of consecration, and I agree we should be consecrated in that respect too. However, in their time, you know, people is like, okay, Esther, in northern Nigeria or amongst the Muslims, how many women are you supposed to marry?
4, sir.
You're allowed to marry 4. So when you become a Christian, are you supposed to sack all of them?
Well,
No, I want to hear.
No,
fair.
no, please.
I think
Okay, go ahead.
I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure of exactly what is done, but I think on an individual basis, some do settle the other women. I'm not too sure. Sir. But that's
Because
what.
at some point, certain, denominations said you cannot have 4 wives now that you're a child of God.
Mm-hmm.
So they say you have to keep the first wife and settle the rest and send them away. But is that what God said?
No. The one who decides
If
to
you
stay.
want, please, Esther, go to 1 Corinthians chapter 11. You see.
The one who decides to stay will stay, and the one who won't.
Yes, and if you are bound to a wife, do not. But if you are not bound, don't get bound, and all that is there. Because God has called us to freedom, not to bondage. Is there? Are you saying that because you happen to have, married a Muslim and now you're a Christian, you should leave? Esther, if you don't leave, you'll go to hell.
Lord have mercy.
No answer. Because they say it's the man that must leave. If he doesn't want you anymore, then you can leave. But if he wants to stay with you, you cannot leave. Or you haven't seen it.
No, I have.
So it's just the fact that it's difficult for you. Okay, let's go on. Chapter 22. So, because you see, even in chapter 21, you are to accept these 7 ewe lambs from me as a witness for me that I dug this well. This is the whole thing about Abraham and the people, in Abimelech's land, Gerar. Therefore, that place was called Beersheba, well of the oath, because there both parties saw an oath. I'm going to answer questions after I finish with this. So I've seen the hand of Susan Makani, but you just let me finish. Thus they made a covenant at Beersheba. Then Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his army, returned to the land of the Philistines. Abraham planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba and called there on the name of the Lord, the eternal God. All right? El Olam. And Abraham sojourned in Philistia many days. After these events, God tested and proved Abraham and said to him, Abraham, he said, here I am. Take now your son, your only son, Isaac. Do you see the level of covenant and the relationship developing? Is everybody still with me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes,
We
sir, we
talked
are
about
here.
that yesterday, and the issue of Moriah, being the group of mountains, the range where you end up with Golgotha there. And then he said, on the mountain of the Lord, it shall be provided. And we see that that's where the son, the only son of the Lord, of the Lord God Most High, that is the Lord Jesus himself, was now, sacrificed. Are we together? So
Yes.
the issue of blessing, each time you will see blessings being multiplied and repeated, reaffirmed as, there was greater consecration. True or false? Come on. Okay, let me see. The angel of the Lord
True.
called Abraham from heaven a second time and said, I've sworn by myself. Are you there? Verse 16. Says the Lord, that since you have done this, I have not withheld from me or begrudged giving me your son, your only son. In blessing, I will bless you. In multiplying, I will multiply your descendants like the stars of the heavens, and like the sand on the seashore. And your seed, heir, will possess the gate of his enemies. And in your seed, Christ, shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. And by him, bless themselves, because you have heard and obeyed my voice. So Abraham returned to his servants, and they rose up and went with him to Beersheba. There Abraham lived. So the servants did not know what had happened between Abraham and Isaac and the Lord. So you see there, because of that, now God gave a definite promise of the Messiah. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
So you see that finally there is a death of Sarah and all of that. Then chapter 24, now Abraham wants to be sure that there is still consecration in his lineage. So he says Isaac must marry from the people from Nahor, right? Bethuel's family. Okay, so that's what happened in chapter 24. Eliezer of Damascus went. We've already talked about that. And then, Rivkah became the wife. And, then you now come to the aspect of Isaac himself in chapter 26, because 25, after the death of Sarah, then Abraham took another wife. Her name was Keturah. Is that clear? So Hagar was not considered a wife. She was considered a maid. I hope it's clear.
Yes, sir. Please, something is just...
Please, just put your hand up. I will give you the opportunity. It will come, unless it has to do with the vow.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So, because I have one on hold, I want to be able to land.
Okay, thank you.
So, you see the field Abraham purchased from the Hittites. There was, he buried Sarah, his wife, and after the death of Abraham, God blessed his son Isaac, and Isaac dwelt at Bela Hiroi, a well to the living one who sees me. Now this is the history of the descendants of Ishmael, and on. And then now you see it comes to the time of Isaac, and this whole thing about birthright. When Esau happened to have been hungry, we need to be consecrated to the point that we're willing to forego food and be ready to suffer for the sake of what we see as our place in God in life, in each season, in each generation. I hope I'm clear so far.
Yes.
Then chapter 26. Now you see Isaac went to Gerar, to Abimelech, king of the Philistines. And the Lord appeared to him and said, do not go down to Egypt, live in the land of which I tell you. Dwell temporarily in this land, and I'll be with you and will favor you with blessings. But to you and to your descendants, I will give all these lands, and I'll perform the oath which I swore to Abraham, your father. I'll make your descendants to multiply as the stars, this, that. For Abraham listened to and obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commands, my statutes, and my laws. So Isaac stayed there. And then you will see, after all is said and done, you remember the story about even Isaac's wife and the Philistines being one. Okay. Look at verse 16. And Abimelech said to Isaac, go away from us, for you are much mightier than we are. Do you see the blessing there? Because God told him to dwell there. When you fellowship with God, when you keep in step with the Spirit of God, when you are consecrated to God, just to do his bidding, not your agenda, but to execute the agenda of God, you will always be mightier than those around. So Isaac went away from there and pitched his tent in the valley of Gerar and dwelled there. Isaac dug again wells and all that. They quarreled. Then he moved to a place now that he finally dug a well. Nobody quarreled. And he called it what? Rehoboth. For the Lord has made room for us, and will flourish in the land. I want to just move on. 27, you see, is blessing, Yaakov before dying. And that's verses 27. Do you see that? Oh, the scent of my son is as the odor fulfilled which the Lord has blessed. And may God give you of the dew of the heavens, of the fatness of the earth, abundance of grain and new wine. Let people serve your nations, bow down to you. The master over your brothers. Let your mother's sons bow down to you. Let everyone be cursed who curses you, and favored with blessings who blesses you. We've read it over and over several times. Then we'll go to chapter 28. We'll see verses 3 and 4. May God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful and multiply you until you become a group of peoples. May he give the blessing he gave to Abraham to you and your descendants with you, that you may inherit the land he gave to Abraham, in which you are a sojourner. Then Isaac sent Jacob away. So, here is somebody that has gone away because, one, he's been seen to be a supplanter, and his brother has decided to kill him. Two, they don't want him to marry from among the Canaanites because, unfortunately, Esau had married Canaanite wives. And you see, in his own case, he had married 2 already. Okay? All right. Then we'll go on. So he left Beersheba and went towards Haran. We remember the story. Now, from verse, 16, Yaakov awoke from his sleep. I would have started right from verse 12, where he dreamed, and there was a ladder set up on earth, and its top of it reached toward heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. And behold, verse 13, please, everybody. What do you see there?
Behold, the Lord stood over and
beside him and said, I am the Lord, the God of Abraham, your father, that's forefather, the God of Isaac. Now I give to you and to your descendants the land on which you are lying, and your offspring shall be as countless as the dust or sand of the ground, and you shall spread abroad to the west and the east and the north and the south. And by you and your offspring shall all the families of the earth be blessed and bless themselves. Is this not like Abraham's blessing?
Yes, sir.
And then verse 15, and behold, I am with you and will keep watch over you with care, take notice of you wherever you may go. Now I'll bring you back to this land, for I will not leave you until I've done all of which I've spoken of you or I've told you. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
And Jacob awoke from his sleep, and he said, surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. He was afraid and said, how to be feared and reverenced is this place. This is none other than the house of God. This is the gateway to heaven. And Yaakov rose early in the morning and took the stone he had put under his head, and he set it up for a pillar, a monument to the vision in his dream. And he poured oil on its top in dedication, so that he will come back and see it. And he named that place Beit El, the house of God. But the name of that city was Luz at first. Then Yaakov made a vow, saying, now the word that is used for if can also be when. It can also be, since in Hebrew. Is everybody with me? Okay, let me help you. So that then you can see it as a sign of consecration. If the word there is im in Hebrew, im. Im is a particle meaning when. Do you see that? It means what?
When?
Somebody read for me. When?
When?
Or whenever. So Why they decided to translate it only with if is probably left to the translators, because they thought that maybe it was doubting. So when God, since God will be with me, this one should be like that. Since God will be with me, whenever God is with me and keeps me in this way that I go, that is when, since God will be with me and will keep me in this way that I go, and will give me bread to eat and raiment to put on, so that I come again to my Father's house in peace, because of what he said in verse 15. Please, are you following?
Yes, sir.
And behold, I am with thee and will keep thee. And I've spoken surely. And he said, and I will not leave you until I've done that which I've spoken of thee. So I'll bring you again into this land, to his Father's house, right?
Yes, sir.
So since God will be with me and will keep me in this way that I go, and will give me bread to eat and raiment to put on, so that I come again to my Father's house in peace, then shall the Lord be my God. So is that a consecration?
It is.
So it is the challenge of the translation. And this stone which I have set for a pillar shall be God's house. Of all that thou shalt give me, I will surely give the 10th unto thee. Now verse 20 is the one that said, and Jacob vowed a vow, saying, God will be with me, since God will be with me. So this vow is a vow of consecration. It's a vow of covenant. Is everybody with me? It's like terms of the covenant. This is neder, masculine noun meaning vow. The word is found 25 times in the Old Testament. Basically means a solemn promise to God, or I think promise. Do you have promises in your covenant or even contracts? Somebody help me. When you enter a covenant, when you even sign a contract, don't you have terms and responsibilities?
Yes, sir.
Do you make promises?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Was it just because, you were still processing? Because the way you were quiet. Because here, look at God's own promise before. As for me, behold, my covenant is with you, and you shall be a father of many nations. Maybe I should make it a more modern translation. New King James. Okay. As for me, behold, my covenant is with you. Do you see that? So, in the case of Jacob, then, Yaakov, in that chapter 28, is supposed to be more of a consecratory, covenantal prayer, vow. Does that make sense now? So what's the place of a vow in the blessing? The blessing is supposed to actually make you want to even get closer to God. True or false?
True.
So then consecrating yourself in a covenantal vow is not bad, as long as it's not out of fear, it's not out of doubt and unbelief. You think, well, God might leave you. Because he said, I'll never leave you until I've done all. right? Wow. Did
Yes, sir.
my
Yes, sir.
system drop off?
Hmm.
Yes, sir, that's what he said.
So we see the vow here within that context. So the only reason why I had a challenge with Jacob is that after this level of consecration, why should you now go and start negotiating a different way? Do you know why he said that? Because in the East, after 3 days of staying with somebody for free, by the 4th day, they will send you away. But if you want to stay on, then you have to work. That was their, for lack of a better word, that was their culture. So now he stayed with him for 1 month and he was working because that's what it is. He who does not work should not eat. You can't be eating if you're not going to work because you eat to work. Is that clear? It's right here, verse 14. And Laban said to him, surely you are my bone and my flesh. And he stayed with him for a month. Then Laban said to Jacob, because you are my relative, should you therefore serve me for nothing? Because once he stayed more than 4 days, he had to now work. You can eat for free for 3 days. On the 4th day, they release you to go home. Did you get what I just said?
Yes, sir.
So now he has stayed for a month. So he had to work. So he was working. But then he said, you cannot just serve me for nothing just because you're my relative. Tell me, what should your wages be? Now, the wages could be, the regular kinds of wages like others who are being paid that were serving in that house. But he was interested in a wife. Are you following?
Mm.
But because he was interested in a wife, then you will either serve, for a period for the wife in lieu of giving expensive gifts. Did you get that?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Yes.
And so was 7 years the maximum.
Well, he is the one that was now trying to go using the principle of weeks. So he gave the possible maximum in terms of weeks. 7 weeks of years shall be the Jubilee, etc., etc. I remember, in the time of Moses, God says that finally. But earlier than that, they understood the issue of 7 days, 7 months, 7 years more, 7 days, 7 years, and all of that. So they know the Shabbat of years. So he thought, well, I can serve for a week. And that's the one Laban now was using. Since you decided to use that principle, then I will use it on you for Leah. Does that make sense? Verse 27. Fulfill her week. I will give you this one also for the service which you will serve with me still another 7 years. Do you see that?
Yeah.
So, but he's the one who created that because he decided to go for that when there were many other ways. We could have said, okay, let me serve you for 1 year. I'll work very hard. And by the mercies of God, I would be able to pay. I will give you expensive gifts. Besides, they had ways of sending messages those days. But I've sent some messages back home, but let's leave that. Because there could be questions about why didn't Isaac give him more than enough to carry with him? With the number of camels and all that. Then, Esau would have known that the guy is leaving and he would have seen the way he's going. True or false?
True. True.
And if he's truly being preserved from being killed by Esau, what stops Esau from killing him? So they didn't want to take any chances. But now it's possible to send some things to Laban. And it's not really Laban. They will say, look for Isaac. But anyway, let me not go far and wide. I hope I have clearly made the aspect of gather unto me my consecrated ones who have made a covenant with me by sacrifice clear enough, so that then we can see the aspect of vow was introduced by Yaakov because he felt he had to make it a stronger thing. But then we will have to look at all the vows in the Bible. And you see that, well, that was a different level. And it was because men were beginning to take God for granted. So they had to have a binding agreement that because they knew if you vow, if you don't fulfill, a curse will come upon you. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So when it came to the issue of the 10th, that's the one we'll have to take probably tomorrow. Is that clear? The aspect of the tithe. Because I would then show you the issue of the tithe, how that has to do with nations, etc., and the fact that, you know, the reason why the tithe is no more being practiced the way it was practiced by nations is that they now replace the tithe with tax. But we'll talk about that tomorrow. Let me answer the 2 questions that were hanging. Or is it 3 now? Because we had Suzanne, and then we had Esther, actually 2 Esthers. Because there seemed to have been another Esther that wanted to say something. I said, hold on. Okay. So let's go first with Suzanne Bakane. If her question has not been answered, then we'll go with Auntie Esther, that's Sister Esther Rejoice Anthony, and then Esther Buckman, Dr. Buckman. All right. Oh, wow. Is that the correct time?
Yes, it is, sir.
So should we take another 10 minutes at least, or should we just close here now? I'm game either way.
Another 10 minutes will be fine. So.
All right. Okay. So let's have Suzanne Bakane. Has your question already been answered?
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Please, sir, I will come back with my question. I have to process what we.
So it will be for tomorrow. Okay. Now,
Okay,
Sister
thank you.
Esther Anthony.
Okay.
Or you meant that you are going to come with your question after Auntie Esther? Suzanne.
No, sir, not today.
Okay, tomorrow. Excellent. All right. Auntie Esther, go ahead.
Please, while you were reading concerning the Abraham, the sacrifice, the answer when Isaac asks, where is the lamb? The answer, there seems to be silence concerning the reaction of Isaac and even maybe Sarah hearing what happened later on. But while I was thinking of it, this scripture came to my mind. I don't know exactly, that was what Abraham did. He says, I knew Abraham, that is able to direct his family after God. So I don't know whether...
Genesis 18:19.
Yeah. So whether he was able to speak well to Isaac, talk to him very well, for him to understand.
By the way, do you realize that Isaac is a teenager? And
Yes, sir.
Abraham is actually an old man.
Mm.
So if it were not for Isaac being obedient and submitting himself, it might not have been easy for Abraham to bind him and put him on an altar.
Yes, sir.
So you see the Genesis 18:19. I've known him, order that he may command his children, his household after him, all that. Okay. Now, I thought you were going to refer to this, Hebrews chapter 11, because he had already received him, as it were, in a figure back from the dead, rising from the ashes. So as for Abraham, he didn't have, any qualms about it, because he knew that God cannot say, this is what I'm going to do, and then tomorrow a different story. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So he ended up receiving him, as it were, from the dead. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, let me go on. Any other question?
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you. I just read the message. I thought it was a question. So, okay, the other Esther is already sorted out. Esther Bachman.
Yes, sir.
Oh, excellent. So now everybody is all right. We'll go ahead and, pray. Oh, again today, I imagine. All right. I'm going to pray over the elements of the communion, but this is what I'm going to do today, that there will be a new level of consecration, whichever level of consecration we need for the new level of operation with God. God will enable us to put that forth. Does that make sense? Does that sound all right?
Yes, that sounds good, sir.
Okay. So I want you to pray yourself now and ask the Lord to help you see the level of consecration you need to operate in from now. And I declare that as we partake of the elements of the communion, so shall it be that there will be an inner light that will come, and God would help you to see. There will be illumination inside you. There will be a light bulb that will come on for you to be able to see the new level of consecration God requires of you for this new level of operation with God. I decree and declare that done. I declare the body of Jesus broken for you. Take, eat, and the blood of Jesus shed for you. Take, drink. Thank you for the privilege of your time, your attention, your presence, your participation, your questions, interactions, and believing God, you're practicing what you have learned so that you see the results. Like we said, God must be the focus of everything. Once He's the focus, there is no limit to how much you can produce all over the world and the kind of impact you'll be making. And that's why I said, I've given to nations in many respects already, and I'll still give to nations, including even, in the area of other resources other than the human, which is the most important resource. That's why I'm so happy God enabled me to give to nations in terms of human resources as we equip them. And, some of them were sent out from here also to other parts of the world. So we're grateful to God for that. Shalom. We already said the body of Jesus broken for you. Take, eat. and the blood of Jesus shed for you, take drink. So, thank you. Over to the one taking announcements. I believe is Reverend Donna Hammond. Or was it Follow Fellow, since she's the one who led earlier on today? Sister Patience, are you still with us? Wow. Okay. Good night, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.
Auntie Pat.
Good night, all. See you tomorrow.
Good night. Shalom.
Okay. Auntie Pat is quiet. All right. Good night. Sleep well.